Hey guys, it's Chris Monk at Highline Guitars, and you're watching another episode from the Luthier's Workbench. Lately, I've been getting a lot of questions from viewers about how I use a three-corner file to recrown my frets after they've been leveled. And it's really pretty simple. So why don't you come in a little closer and I'll show you how I use this tool.
The frets on this brand new guitar neck are pretty level to begin with. However, there are a couple that I noticed that have some high spots, and I'm checking the frets 3 at a time with my fret rocker to pinpoint where those high spots are. Then I'll take my three-corner triangle file and I'll lay it flat side down right on the center of the top, and I'll lightly begin to file following the contour of the fretboard. Now the key to success here is to remove as little material as you possibly can and just bring the height of that fret down enough for them to be level with the adjacent frets. If you take too much material off, you'll end up having to level all the frets on the fretboard, and that defeats the purpose of just spot leveling. And what I'll do is I'll go back and recheck with my fret rocker tool to make sure that the fret is perfectly level. Once I'm satisfied that the fret is level, I can go ahead and recrown it. And to do that, I'm going to use that same three-corner file, but this time I'm going to lay it down so that it's at an angle. And what I'm doing is I'm taking off that sharp edge between the flat top and the sides, and gradually, as I continue to work, that edge begins to round over the top. And you can watch the edge of the fret wire in this video, you can see it gradually turning from a flattened top to a rounded curve. It's pretty simple. Then I'll hit the edges at a slight angle just to further improve the appearance, at least, of that, the edge of the fret. I also like to use a micro three-corner file that has one surface ground flat and smooth for safety purposes. And what I use this file for is just to nip off the little burr that can form at the edge of the fret wire after it's been leveled and recrowned. Once I've finished recrowning the frets, I'm ready to go in and start removing the scratches that were left over by that three-corner file. Now the file that I use, and I'll put a link to it down in the description below so you can go out and check one out for yourself. It has very, very fine teeth, so the scratches and gouges that it leaves on the fret wire are fairly minimal. So what I'll do is I'll start to remove those by using some wet, dry 220 grit sandpaper, and I'll sand out the scratches. And at that point, it'll start getting pretty smooth. Then I'll move up to a 400 grit wet dry paper and continue to sand. And then I'll finish with an 800 grit. And as I'm sanding, I can actually see the file marks converted to 220 grit. And then I can watch them converted to 400 grit scratches and then 800 grit scratches. And by the time they're at 800 grit, they're getting pretty small and pretty inconsequential. Now after I finish with the sandpaper, I like to just rub down the surface of the frets with abrasive fret erasers. And these are available at a bunch of different places online, and I'll put some links down in the description below so you can go check them out yourself. But I typically use I think it's like a 180, a 400, and an 800, something in that range, 3 different grits. And I just rub them over the surface, and that seems to take down those last little bit of 800 grit scratches and gets it ready for the final polish and buff. And then after I'm finished with the eraser, I'll rub the surface down with some 4/0 steel wool to get a little bit of a polish. And honestly, you could stop at this point. A lot of people would be perfectly happy. But I have one more thing I need to do. So the last step is to buff up the surface of the frets to a mirror-like shine. And I'll do that with a felt buffing wheel, which is chucked into the flex shaft on my Dremel motor tool. And I'll just give it a couple of passes using a metal polishing compound. And once I'm finished with that, I'll have a really nice mirror shine on this fret. So that's really all there is to it. As you can see, it's really easy to use a 3-corner file to recrown your frets, and it's a heck of a lot cheaper than buying one of those fancy diamond-coated concave fret crowning tools.